Well, hello, everyone. Wednesday, January the 22nd. Nice weather outside, minus 27 Celsius. A beautiful day. Dominik, talking about lovely day. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good, thank you. Not as cold as at your place, but still very cold here and already dark, but best time to jump in some notes.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity again. We've had quite a few people waiting. I was looking at YouTube's little waiting. There were more than 60 people waiting. Well, thank you everyone for waiting, and you'll be waiting no more. Yeah, hello, Dean, Andy, Artificial, 3D Druid, and Drake, our very good friend. How are you? Let me go very quick. Oh, Paul, Jose. Oh my God, everyone's here. So let me quickly go through the housekeeping, and let's then get on with it right after this. And I'm going to be posting some links. So let me go to the comments here. And first of all, just use this link over here. You'll see it in the chat, which I'm going to bring up as well. So everyone can see it. Use this link to go to this page over here, and it has links to everything you need, including the Ask the Trainer question form. And of course, go to the Maxon events and check out what's going on in the Maxon universe. Go to the Maxon Training Team YouTube channel and the Maxon YouTube channel and the ZBrush YouTube channel. And do me a favor, subscribe. What we realized is that a lot of the people that watch the shows are not subscribed, and we just like it. I'm going to show my face just to put some emotional. Oh, that's Dominik, and that is me. Hello, Dominik. So I need to press this button. There we go. Put some emotional pressure on you. Please subscribe. We like to be subscribed to and liked and comment and all that. Please do that. All right. Was that convincing enough? I don't know. Doesn't make a difference. Anyway, but please subscribe. Yeah, it's surprising how many people enjoy the shows, and we appreciate it and all that, but have not subscribed. We need it for our vanity. Okay. Jokes aside, don't forget to go to Cineversity and check out a lot of tutorials. I'm just going to say a lot of tutorials on Cinema 4D and all of the other amazing Maxon products. Do yourselves a favor, go check out the ZBrush YouTube channel, subscribe there as well, and check out amazing tutorials and outstanding artists that do great things. Every time I go to this page, I don't want to do the show. I want to sit here and look at the stuff that people are doing, but I shouldn't do that right now. Anyhow, let me bring us up again. And as far as I know, Dominik has more exciting stuff to show us today. And I'm not going to hold him back any longer. I'm going to add his. Is your screen ready to be added?
Yes.
There we go. And I'm going to remove my face from here. There you go.
Great.
Take it away.
Thanks. So yeah, hello everyone. And yeah, what are we doing today? So we leave particles now, and we are jumping into nodes this stream here. So, and we keep it quite basic. So we are, let me go to the next slide and let me explain what we are going to do. First, I like to give you a little bit of an overview. So which nodes you actually can use inside of the object manager and how they're used. There we also do some little tips and tricks. And then next part will be, we are modeling our own little node and building an asset out of it. So we're building a little house. And of course, if we have time left, then I will show you some additional examples. So let me rush through the presentation and then we jump into cinema. So first part here, as explained, we going through the different node types that you can use inside the object manager. And then next, we will show you some little tips and tricks. Then second part, we are building our own little asset, and we're gonna build, as you maybe already saw here, a little building here. So this is a good way to show some of the nodes, some of the selection nodes, and of the modeling nodes, and then we build a little building together. And we build a simple version, and then I will show you a little bit more advanced version that I built. So, and you can see here, this is just one asset, and out of this asset you can build all those little cute houses here. And I also built the city then with this node. And if we have some time for some additional example, I can also show you, maybe as I already saw, there is also streets inside my city. So I built a little street generator where you can select polygons, and depending on those polygons, the street will be drawn. So, and then also a little plant generator if you have some time. So this also shows you a bit the scope, what you can do with nodes in terms of building modelings, building assets, and also a full tree generator that I built. And a little mushroom generator if you have some time, something cute for the ending. But I think that's it for the presentation. So let's jump to the start, and then we will start, okay, with the geo modifiers and selection that we can use inside the object manager. So first, what is the object manager? Of course, I think the most of people, if you know, here the object manager is where you place your objects. So, and when you go to your asset browser, and when you go to the nodes, let's close this one, then we have here all the different nodes. So they are categorized here, but of course, we don't know which nodes we can use straight here inside the object manager. So I made here a little overview. So there's one big part is the geometry modifiers. So those you can use to manipulate geometry. They work pretty similar as a deformer in classic cinema or an effector, and you can place under an object, and then the geometry will be manipulated. Then there are also a category like the geometry selections. So with those you can build procedural selections. And then there is also the asset construction. So you can build your own assets inside the object manager. So there are the distribution assets. We don't go into those. So those don't work in the object manager, but these are all also under the category asset construction. Then there is the nodes mesh. With the nodes mesh, you can build your own geometry. Then there is the nodes modifier. You can build your own modifier. Then you can build your own selection with the node selection. And of course, also a node spline with this asset construction. You can build splines. And then there's one hidden. This is still under experimental, but it's also a very powerful asset construction node or capsule. It's called the object group. You can see it has this little yellow flask. That means this can change in the future. So Maxon's still working on this, but this is very useful if you want to work with instances. So not just with plain geometry. I will show you a little example when we go further. So, and then maybe let's go to the little tips and tricks to show you how this stuff is working. So there was in one of your streams, your training streams, Noseman, there was the question, is there a way to select, when we use the bevel deformer, is there a way to select the beveled edges? So, and there is, you can use nodes for this. So let me show you how this works. let's jump in. First, where you can find those, you can see here we have the geo modifiers. These are all the modifiers here that you can use here inside the object managers. You can drag them here, so you can see then they can live here inside of the object manager. And then, of course, the geo selections. You can do the same here. So then maybe let's try to select the beveled edges when we use the bevel deformer. So let's add a cube. Then let's use the bevel deformer. I think this lives down here. Yes, let's add this to the cube. Maybe let's show the wireframe. Let's make it a bit bigger and some subdivisions. So and now it would be great to have here kind of an output to select those newly created edges here, but there is no way inside straight inside the bevel deformer. But what we can do is first select the initial 4 faces, then we bevel, and because the bevel creates new geometry, this geometry will be is not selected, so we can invert the selection, and then we have the edges selected. So let's go here to the selections, and then we use select. So here inside of the select, you most of those selections have a little bit the same parameters here. So you have first the type, what you like to select. Is it points? Is it edges? Or is it polygons? In our case, it's the polygon. So, and then with the selection string, you can do a lot of stuff. So you can just type in numbers, so the numbers that matches the indices. So you can also say maybe 1, 2, 3. And maybe let's check. Let me show you how you can show the selected faces. So when you go to the cube and under options here, you see there is show the polygon indices or show the point indices. When you go to the polygon indices and go to the cube, I think you don't have to go here to the polygon mode. You can see you have those polygons that are selected. It should just show the selected ones. So I think, yeah, I'm not sure why, but let me go further in the explanation. So because we select here, we can, instead of just, you can also just convert it to, let's check if they are selected. So let's go to the polygon, and now we can see it selects polygon 1, 2, and 3. I will show you afterwards other solutions to show the current selection that we have. So let's delete the cube again. Let's go back. So and now we can say here, instead of a number, you can also say there are different keywords you can use. One of them is just all. We type in all, and now it selects all the polygons. And now when we bevel, so because we have now here new polygons due to the bevel deformer, those polygons are not selected. So we can say invert. It's also under the geo selections. Say invert selection. And then we like to invert the polygons. Maybe let's check again here, current state to object. And we can see, maybe let's hide here the polygon indices, and you can see now we selected the polygons here. So, but it would be great to see the polygon selection as we are here in the building our procedural setup. So we can store our current selection. So there is a node called store selection. Where is it? So put it down here, and then we say a name. Let's say maybe current. And then what we like to select here is we can say active or default. So when we type in active, then it stores the active selection. So active.
A quick interjection here. What exactly the active selection and all that, it's going to be part of some tutorials that are going to be released in a few days. So very soon, you're going to have some information about exactly
Great.
what actives are and all that. Thank you.
Oh, great, perfect. So you can see already, because we stored a selection here, it creates here a selection tag. So you can click on the selection tag. We see, now we have a selection called current. And this selection we can use inside of a material, of course. Maybe let's make this red. Add this to the cube and put this in here to selection. Now we can see we have here the beveled edges selected. So that's it for the selecting beveled edges. Let's go back to the presentation. Then, yeah, as I said, there are also different ways to show your selection on procedural objects. So one way is with the split modifier. So we can, let's go back. Maybe let's build from scratch here. Let's add a cube. Then add some segments here. And then we need, of course, a procedural selection first. So let's do this with the random selection. So with the random selection, you can, as it says, building a random selection. And when you go to the geo modifiers, there is a modifier called split. So place this under the random selection. And you can see already inside here, inside the selection string, there is written default. So it splits the default selection from here from our cube. So when you go to the random selection, change the seed, and this is a way to show the current selection. And what if we like to do this for points? So when we maybe remove the split, and inside of the random selection, say inside of the mode, we want to select random points. It should actually, I didn't know why it worked not before, it should actually also work with those indices. Let me check again, polygon indices. I have to go here. Now it works. Okay, you have to go here to the point selection mode, and now you can see the selected indices. So what the problem is, when we go back to the random selection, we this is gone. So we can use a matrix object to show the selection. That's an easy way. So here inside of the random selection, you can store the selection. So maybe let's say again, current. And then we have here the current selection. Then we use a matrix object. Then we clone onto an object, so onto our cube. Then we like to distribute onto the vertices. Maybe let's remove here the point indices, and then we plug in here our selections. And now maybe also remove the line clone here. And now we see here the selections by our matrix object. So when we change here the seed, this is also a way to show, and the same is for edge selections. So maybe when we say go to select random edges, then we could store this inside of another one. So let's go to the selections. Say, where is it? To store the selection. Let's say again here default or active. Say current 2 or something. Then go to the matrix object. We add here our current 2, and we have to switch to edges. Oops, current 2, right? Great. Oh, it selects everything. Why? Should work. Let me check. So let's current state to object. Yes, should actually work. Not 100% sure why it doesn't work here. Let me do it again from scratch. add a random selection, select edges, then store it. Current, we have here an edge selection, go to the matrix, add the cube, add the, oh, now it works. Didn't know what happened here. But the cool thing here with when you use a matrix object, you can align the clone and then say scale to the edges. So we can scale it to the edges. And now we have here, of course, the matrices are a little bit too big here. And now you also see your current selection. You can switch it here. So these are some ways to show the selections, but I have a little giveaway for you because always to build this is sometimes a bit tedious. So I built some little assets, so you can find them in the download. So let me show what I mean. So let's go into this file, and here we have some selection visualizers. And those are actual assets. So you can see the C nodes generator here. So you can find them when you type in here visualizers. So visualizers, we go to all. Oops, I typed it wrong. Again, here we go. And you can see those are actual assets that are in the asset browser, and they here can explain where you can place your assets. So when we go here on this little button here to show the details, so you can see the information here, and you can see here the database. So where this asset lives. So every file that you create has its own database. So here the asset lives in this file. So you can then, if you like to put this in your own database, you can see I have here my own database. You can go right click and say this works for every asset. So you can say move to database or copy to database. Then you go copy to database. You can select your database. So this is the standard database of your cinema, or you can place it, as I said here, straight in, embedded into the scene file, or you can choose your own database, press OK, and then it is in your database of your choice. So that's the cool thing about assets. You can embed them inside of a scene file, and then if you want to give them to another person, those assets are inside the scene file, and this person can place them wherever he wants. So let me show you what you can do with those. So these are pretty simple. So we have the visualizer for points, for edges, and for polygons. So you can just place here, maybe let's go just for the points here. You can place your cube here. Then normally there's a default, or you can type in active, and then you see the active selection. But you can also here on the cube, I created I stored two selections here. So we have here 2 point selections. You can also drag in here a selection, remove the default. And then you can show a specific selection. You can also say, oops, they are missing here. So that's I'm weird. Let me take a new one here. Not sure why it's not written here, so I have to check. But should normally work. So it's when you present stuff, sometimes stuff don't work. But you can check. Let's go back to this one. You can check here this checkbox, and then you can search through all the selections that are on object. So you can visualize your selection. So you can download this file, and then those assets are embedded. So you can just type in here visualizer, and then you have those 3 visualizers for polygons, for edges, and for points. You can use them as helpers to show your current selection or a stored selection. Maybe let's copy one to another file. I'm not sure why this is missing. Should work. Hopefully, if it's also if the names are missing here, just write to comments, but should actually work. But yeah, I think that's it for the first part here. So all about these little tips and tricks. And in the next part, we dive into building an asset. And but I think I want to pass to Noseman if we have some questions.
No, we don't have any questions. People appear engaged. We have a lot of greetings. A lot of people are very happy because that's exactly what they were trying to do. I don't know which part of a presentation that was, but yeah, everyone seems excited. So that means that I'm not going to take more of your time. Keep going.
Okay, great. I think let's go to the interesting part. So let's go and build a little capsule. So we built a little building here. So maybe here as a disclaimer, if you really want to build like a huge building generator, this is maybe not the best way to go, but I choose this solution here just to show the little at the different modeling tools that you can use and how to build an asset and to build this tiny little house. So if you like to do like a huge building generator with I would recommend to do this with instances. So as I already told you, there is an capsule called the object group where you can work with instances. So I built a little setup to show you how you could build a building generator with instances first. So let me open the file so you know what I mean. Let's go to Cinema. Let's wait till the textures get loaded. We have to convert the textures. Here we go. So here you can see I built it's super simple. I built this today just to show how you could also build building generators with instances. So I grabbed some, maybe let's show you. I grabbed some assets from Quixel. So and those you can use to instance onto a surface and also build, like if you want to build like a real building, this would be the better solution. So just explain me what I did here. So the cool thing about this object group. So first, where you can find the object group, this is here under experimental. You have to go to notes, and then there is a category experimental, and it is, where is it? Here it is, the object group. So yeah, all the experimental nodes have this little yellow flask here, so their stuff can change in the future. But when you go onto the capsule here, you can see you have a tab called generators. So maybe someone recognized this looks the same as in a cloner. So you can work with instances, with render instances and multi-instances. And for this building here, so we have the huge building. So I also made some settings.
Can I jump in one thing just for caution? Of course. Anything that's in the category experimental and has a flask, as Dominik said, it can change. It can be removed. It can, its future is not guaranteed. So everything that has a flask and is called experimental, use at your own risk. Let me put it that way. So yeah, it's extremely fun, as Dominik will show. But yeah, just keep that in mind. Thank you.
I hope that in the future there will be still a workaround for instancing, because this is very powerful. I'm not sure, but yeah, as I said, take it here with a grain of salt. But the cool thing is here, yeah, maybe let's change. It works with a lot of geometry. Oops, and you can change distribution. Maybe let's zoom in here. You can see we have a very detailed geometry here. So, and that's by the power of instancing. So it's the same as in a cloner, where you also can work with instances. So just let me show what I did here. Let's open the capsule here. Let's make it bit bigger. So what I did first is I made a cube, and with the modeling tools, I built an initial shell or initial cage. So let me show the geometry here. So we have this cube, all those sides, on those sides or on those polygons. I will copy all our assets here that I have from Quixel. So you can see I splitted it up here with the top part. So for the top parts of the building, and then the lower part to clone onto a lower part. So, and then it's pretty simple. I have here the top part and the lower part, and I take the polygon centers and the polygon normals, and out of those polygon normals, I use the matrix operator. So let me explain. An operator is not just a geometry. The operator is like it is a full object. So it's not just you can not just place geometry in there. You just also can add the normal transformations, or for example, color. So, and then I have here the geometry. So there is also something really cool you can do. That you can. This works in every capsule. So when you normally place just by drag and drop and geometry into your onto the node graph here, you get a classic object, and the classic object is like a link. It's pretty similar to the object link, and it links here our from the classic cinema here our geometry here. But you can also embed your geometry into the asset. So that's what I did here. So I can copy here. Maybe let's go back to the final version here. Oops. So, and then I can copy this to a new file. The textures are missing, but that's no problem. Then now you can see I have the asset, and inside this asset, the geometry is embedded. And how can you do this? So let's go back. So instead of just dragging it here one by one, you can hold down Control. When you hold down Control and release over the node graph, you get here a geometry object, and inside this geometry object, maybe let's put it here to the output. You can see we have the full, let's use a data inspector. You can see we have the full geometry here of this object. So now the geometry is embedded inside of the asset. This could be very useful in some cases. So this is the workflow if you really want to go for a huge building, when pre-modeled assets to build your building. So, but what we are gonna to do is to build here our little building here, so we can dive in to the modeling tools. So let's make a new file. Maybe let's close this one here. And then what we need is an capsule to build, as I explained at the beginning here under asset construction. Here we have the nodes which are useful to construct an asset. So because we want to make a little building out of geometry, we use the nodes mesh. Let's place the nodes mesh. And then you can see we are inside of the nodes mesh, and inside of the nodes mesh we have here a geometry output. So we can place, for example, a cube inside here. Our for everybody, if you want to quick select a node, just double click here to the node graph, and then the asset browser pops up, and then you can type in. So this is a very quick way to access nodes. So then you can output it here. So you can drag it, or you can, the easy way, just type Q, and then the cube gets here to the output. Then we have here the cube. Perfect. So let's start to build our little building. So let's go to the the presentation. So first we want to build a shell, then a door, of course, because every building needs a door, then some windows, and at the end a little roof. Let me show you the final capsule first. So let's go to building. Here we go. And you can see we have here our happy little building here. And on the building, we have different settings, also with tabs here. So first we can define the base here. So the width and the height of the building. So, and also where to subdivide here our building. So you want to make it smaller, type in 15, then we have smaller windows. So it subdivides every 50 centimeter. Then we can go to the door. So door should always stay at the bottom, so we can use a seed here, so the door will be placed randomly at the bottom. Then a lot of settings for door width, height, the frame depth, and so on. The same for the windows. So we have a seed, so randomly place the windows. We have a chance how many windows we like to have on our building. Then the inset of our windows here, so can go here to the fully to the border here, and how many subdivisions, something like this, and of course also the depth. And for the last part we have also the roof, so also some settings for our roof. Yeah, I think you can see where this where we want to go. So let's go back into our file here, to our cube. Open our, double click, open our nodes mesh here, and then let's start by building first our shell here. So for the shell, when we go to the cube here, we have here the size and then the segments. And as I explained, we want to define how many segments we have by a defined width. So like here on the base, we have here subdivide at 100 or 50, and then the actual size. So maybe let's show the wireframe here. So the size we already have here, so we can press Control and here on the little circle to expose here our parameter. Let's plug the size here to our inputs. And now we have here already the size. And then we like to maybe add some, make this a little bit bigger here. Okay. Then we like to add this, when to subdivide here. So we can go here to the inputs, right click here and go to the inputs and add a new input. So let's do this. So we like to add a vector. Then we have here a new vector, but the vector at the moment is not in centimeters, so it would be great to also show those as a centimeter. So you can right click onto the vector here. Maybe let's call this first subdiv add, something like this. And then say edit part. Let's go to the part, and then you have here the unit. It is undefined, so we can say to the unit, let's use meters, and then we can add a default value. So let's add 100, 100, and 100, and then the step size. So 1 centimeter is fine. So the step size is when you go here with the arrows left and right, it will always go up and down 1 centimeter. So great. And then maybe let's switch those. So if you right click here onto the empty panel here of the inputs, there is also edit resources. So, and with then it opens a window where you can manage all your parameters here. So you can see where you're inside of the inputs. We have the local, the matrices of our actual capsule, and then we have here the size and the subdivided. So let's grab our subdivide, put it down here, and you can see you have here also a little preview of your interface, and of course also here. So now it is switched. Let's close it. And now we like to define the segments here. So how many segments? So expose all the segments. So, and what we can do now, we have here the size and the subdivision value. We can divide the size with our values. So we can do this straight with a vector. So let's use a divide node. That is arithmetic divide. And we like to switch the data type to vector. Then plug in the size, then divide it with our subdivision value. And then we can twirl here the result down, and we can straight plug them into here. So these are float values here. So we have floating numbers, and the segment needs an integer, but it gets automatically converted. You can see this by this little circle with the little dot inside. So that means, okay, the value gets converted. So here from a float value, float 64, to an integer value. So great. So let's check. Let's make this bigger. Now you can see we have this automatic subdivision. Let's make it a little bit higher. So the depth here. So great. This works. So what are there some questions before we go into the door modeling?
No, everyone is everyone's attention is on what you're doing. Thank you.
Great, cool. So yeah, as every house needs a door. So what are the properties of the door? The door has to always be at the bottom. Of course, it can't be up here. So we need a way to select the bottom row here. And then from the bottom row, we have to select just one random polygon of this bottom row, and there we want to model our door. So let's start by selecting here the bottom row. So let's go to our selection tools here. So you can see all the selection modifiers here. So there is one very handy selection called, where is it? It is select by facing. So you can select polygons or points by where they're facing. So let's select, put this in here. You can also, I always miss this, you can drag them straight onto the wire here. And then we like to have here the axis. So we like to select here the bottom first. So this is y minus, and we like to select polygons, and we can use the split node to see what is selected. So we can go into the geo modifiers, and where is the split? Here it is. Plug this into here, and now we can see, okay, we selected the bottom first. And now with the grow selection, so let's make some space here, maybe, whoops. Go to the selections again, and then we have here the grow selection. So as when you work with the normal modeling tools, you can also do this procedural by the grow selection. So let's grow here our selection by 1, great. So, and now we have to remove from our current selection the bottom selection. So here inside the select facing, we can store this first. So let's say bottom. And now we have the bottom selected, and we have our current selection. So we can use a normal select node to say what we like to do. And here inside of the selection string, you can not just put in words or numbers. You can also use a normal arithmetic. So we can say from our active selection, so for the default selection, let's type in active. We like to subtract our bottom selection. So stored selections, you have to use those little quotes here. So let's type in bottom. And here we go. We have just the bottom row selected. Great. So, and what we like to do next is to select just one polygon. So first thing, we need to know all the indices of this selection here. So how could we extract those? There is a handy note called to indexes, selection to indexes. Then add here the geometry. And now we can also say again, we like to use polygon selection, and we like to have here our active selection, for example. And now we have here an array with indices of all our polygons here. So if you want to show those, if you want to see those indices, there is a little trick because they are at the moment they are not processed, so you can't go here to the data inspector. You will, it says here they are not active, so Cinema is to look at the have the resources of inside here. We have how should I explain this? So when they're not active, so Cinema is keeping the resources low, so these are not used, so it don't get processed. But we can do this with a little trick, and there is the text node. So here's the text node, and here we can expose the text spline. You can plug in here. So inside of a spline, you can plug in almost everything. Then type Q. And now we see we have all the indices here. And also we can go here to the right click and say data inspector. And now we see all the indices of our bottom row. Great. So let's go back here. Remove the text. And now we want to pick a one random indice of our index array here. So let's use an hash node. I already explained the hash node in the last stream. So with the hash node, we can generate random numbers. So here's the hash node. And then we have to first define the minimum and maximum range of our random numbers. So the minimum is 0 and the maximum will be the count of all our indices here inside this array. So let's use and get count. So now we have the count of our array here. Plug this into the maximum, and then we have here different outputs. We need the integer, so now we have here a random integer between 0 and the maximum here, or the count of our indices. And this one we can use to select a random polygon. So let's use a select again. Maybe let's show the selection nodes here again. Here are the geo selections. Use a select, and again you can place them straight onto the wire, and then expose the selection string. And as I explained, you can type in here numbers. So let's use the integer, place it into here, and then we have here a seed value. Let's check. I think it's polygons. I think we have to split, because we should. Oh, this looks correct, right? Jumps around here. So we have the active selection should be right. Then not sure why it selects all the indices, not just the bottom row. Let me check here, data inspector. So we have 20. Sorry, my fault. We have here the integer. The integer it's just the the number from a random number from 0 to the count. So we have to select the index, the random indice first. So let's use an get element. So we like to, from here, our indices of the bottom row, we like to select a random integer here. And now let's plug this into here. Now let's check again with the seed. Yeah, this looks correct. So maybe let's show the, oops, we could also, instead of splitting here, we can also go here to show the full geometry. And then let's use my little helper here. So let's go to all, let's use the, here my visualizer, add in the nodes mesh. Here we go. I think there's a little bit offsetted. Not sure why. Is it? Okay. Reset here, and great. So we can now change the seed. Let's go through. Yeah, and now we have one polygon selected here. And the seed we can use here as a parameter, of course. Let's say door seed, and now we have here our polygon where we like to model our door. So maybe first that the door is actually the complicated part of all, then the windows and the roof will be a bit easier. So now let's bring this here back here. So we have just here our polygon, and maybe let's bring this into a group so we can clean everything a little bit. So you could type in Ctrl-G, so, and then it builds a scaffold around, so you can still see the nodes, and you can add a title here, or you can also select the nodes and use Alt-G, and now they're inside of a group. So we can say here, split the door. And let's go back, and if you double click, you can go into this group, and this one is here, our door geometry, and this is the rest of our shell. So maybe shell remain. And now we have both, we have the door and the rest of our shell. So great. And on this door, we can start to build our actual door. Are there some questions, or should I proceed?
There was, 3D Druid was asking, can you make the indices appear as a number on the polygon? Automatically, other than the polygon indices and point indices you have in the viewport menu, if that's not good enough for you, then you would have to put it together. The C nodes doesn't have an automatic way of doing that. Just like Dominik earlier showed that you can output some text and see an array, for example, and so forth. There are ways to create a little Mograph-y setup in nodes. So what you're seeing now, what Dominik is showing now, is a default way where you see the polygons. That's something that's built into Cinema 4D. But if you wanted to show a specific numbers of specific polygons which are selected within the nodal setup, you can't do that automatically. You will have to set it up. Now, the good thing is that once you make your little capsule asset doing that, you can always group it and reuse it. So you have to make it only once, but automatically no. And it's a bit out of scope to show how you would do that right now. Hit me up on Twitter. Maybe I add that as some sort of tip or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, at the moment you have to build stuff like this at your own, but yeah, you can build it up as your own modifier, or you can also, in this case, I would prefer to use, as I explained, the object object group capsule, so to build instances of the text object, to then place them on the polygons, and inside the text object write in the number of the indices. So you can also show it on large amount of geometry. So because then you can switch it to multi-instance, and this should work then pretty fast. Yeah, this is also a solution.
Excellent. Nothing else for now. So yeah, keep going, please.
Then let's start to build here our door. So here we have here now our polygon of our door. So what we have to do here, so maybe let's doodle this first. So we have to subdivide it first. So subdivide it 2 times. So we have it like this. Then we like to select this one and this one. And this is the starting point of our door. And when we have selected those, we like to define the height of the door and the width of the door. So for the height, let's make this green, we have to select all those polygons here. So we can scale them from the bottom here. So we can maybe scale them up to here. So we can define the height. And for the width, we have to select those polygons here in the center. And then we will scale them. We can scale them here from the center. So we can go to here. So and then at the end, you have our maximum doors like this. And the minimum door we can make like this. So we can now move those polygons around to define the width and the height of our door. So let's do this. Let's hide the doodle. So what we have to do first, let's subdivide it. So there is a node called subdivide. Plug this, drag it here onto the wire. Then let's say subdivide 2 times. And now we need a solution to select those 2 polygons here in the center. So let's go to the selection nodes here. Nodes, then geo selections, and there is a very handy selection node called the select bounding box. So bring this into here. Maybe let's activate this again so we can see what's selected. So here inside of the select bounding box, we can of course use the mode points, edges, polygons. Polygons is fine, and then we can define the bounding box. So the bounding box is like where the geometry, like the outer bounds of the geometry. So when we type in here also in the Y, also from 0 to 100, we select everything. Great, but we just want to select those 2 polygons in the center. So we are now here in the x-axis. So inside of the x-axis, just select the one in the center. So we can type in here 49 to 51%. So it will select just the polygons in the center. And the same for the y-axis. So if our polygon is facing into the not into the z-axis. Sorry, it at the moment it faces into the z-axis. Sorry, and when it faces into the x-axis, we have to do the same. So let's go back here, and we have to do the same here in the x bound. So let's say 94 to 51. And then we just, because we have here 3 polygons, we want from the minimum, this is 0, to like from 100% when we divide it by 3 times 2. So can do this just by 100 divided by 3 times 2. And here we go. And then we have those 2 selected. And we can store them already and say this is the door. Great. Then we have to, as explained here with the doodle, we want to change the height. So let's use another selection here. select bounding box. We don't need to store this. So now we want to select everything in the x-axis and in the z-axis. So let's go here back to 0 to 100. Same here, 0 to 100. Great. And now we like to scale them up and down here from the bottom. So we can do this with a transform, a geometry transform node. I think it lives also inside of the geo modifiers. So all the blue ones are modifiers that you can use inside here, normally also inside Object Manager. So I think it's also in here. Yes, here we have the transform geometry. Bring this in here. And we like to transform polygons. And the selection strings default. We don't just want to deform the selected polygons. And then we could play here with the height, but you see this looks not correct when we change the Y scaling. This is because at the moment it scales from our world axis or from the center axis of our capsule. So when we look from the side here, so it scales from here. So you can see, so that is not what we want. So you can go here to the pivot, open the pivot and say instead the pivot, this is our pivot matrix here. So it's the center point here. So 0, 0, 0. We want to scale from the bounding box of our object. And we like to scale from also the bounding box is around here from the bottom Y. So let's go from bottom Y minus 100%. Now let's check. And now we can see, maybe let's go back here. We can, with this parameter, scale it here. Of course, we can go overshoot, so we can prevent this afterwards. So great. We like to have this parameter here as a parameter. So let's turn this down, go to scale, then the scale by. Add a new input. Let's call this door height. You can drag it to here. So it is a little bit cleaner. And then we have to do the same for the width. So let's use another select bounding box. And here again, type in 49 to from 49 here, and here also from 51, and here to the full height, and here also to 51. So we always select the center. Great. Then let's use another transform here. And here we like to transform, of course, the X and also the Y if the polygon faces into X direction. So let's turn this down here. Let's use the X scaling here and say door width. Oops, width. Bring this in here and also plug it into the set. And now, because we have here empty inputs here, we also have to define those, because we just defined Y. This will be overwritten and it will be just 0. So we have to plug in here the value 1 for all of those empty inputs here. Let's build a value node. This is just for building constant values. So we like to have a constant value of 1. Just plug them into here. So now, oops. What's wrong here? Okay, that's great. So now we can bring this also to 1 here. Let me check. Yes. Okay. I think the problem now, if we want to slide those down, because the step is now 1. So when we go to 2, it overshoots, and it overshoots also here. So maybe let's search for an upper value that is the maximum. So let's go back to, oops, to 1 and to 1 for the height and the width. And maybe say for the height, something like this, 0.4 is the maximum. And for the width, let's go up, maybe, let's say 2.7, 1.4 and 2.7. Great. So we can clamp this, or we can say the maximum value for this parameter. We can define this in our resource editor. So let's go to the resource editor. Then we have here the door height and the width. And we can first, of course, define the default value. Maybe let's say default value is 0.2 here, and here also 0.2. Oops, 0.2. And then the step size, we say this should be pretty small, so 0.01. Also for the door width, 0.01. And then we have here the value limits. So for this one, we can say what is the limit. So as we said, for the door width, the limit is 2.7. So let's say the maximum, so limit the maximum by 2.7. Then the same for the door height. Here we have the value limits. Say the maximum is, I think it was 1.4. Oops, 1.4. Great. And then let's check here. Now we can't overshoot here our door. Great. So now we have here the maximum defined. So great. Then let's select our door again. So as you maybe remember here on the first select bound, we stored here our door. So let's select this door. Oops, I typed in accidentally the number 1 here. So let's say go to the selection, use a select node here. And then let's say select the door. So because it is a stored selection, use those quotes, door. Here we go. And now we have the final door polygons selected. And those we can split now and to build, and then finally our frame and our final door. So let's use a split. Add the split here. So this is our door and this is the remaining here. And this door, maybe let's make it a little bit smaller. So, and now we want to build the frame. So you can see when we go back here to our door. So what we have to do is we have to extrude first, then let's make an inset and then again extrude back. So let's do this. Here is our 2 door polygons. Let's use an extrude. So extrude, those nodes works as when you extrude with the normal polygon, with the normal modeling tools. So, but this is procedural. So here you can see, okay, it extrudes outwards, and then we have the offset here. So, and this offset would be great to have this as a parameter. So let's expose it. Let's call it maybe door frame depth or something. To bring it here. Then we have to do an inset. To inset to here. And here also the inset. We see we have here a problem, because also when we show it from the back, you can see when we export here, just output extrude, extrudes every polygon individually. So we have to say on the extrude, use polygon islands. So now it looks correct. And the same we have to do on the inset. So normally the inset insets every polygon at its own. So we have to say also use islands. And here the inset it would be great to have this also as parameter. And maybe let's call this door, frame inset. Here we go. And then for the last step, we like to extrude inside. So let's use another extrude. We can copy, we can copy this one, hold down Control, bring it to here. And because we want to extrude into the opposite, so we could go here into the negative values, but I think for our final asset, it would be great if this is not a negative value, if this is also a positive value. So we can go here to our resources, and let's copy here the dorm frame depth, because this is already prepared nicely. Maybe say here for the slider, we have here also the slider values, the minimum and the maximum. I think 1000 is a little bit too high. So let's say here maybe 100 or maybe 30. So, and then we can copy this, right click, copy, and then go here to the group. And you say into this group here, we want to paste it. So we have the door frame depth duplicate here, and we can say this is maybe the door depth or something. You know, it's not the best names, but I think we don't care here about perfect names. So now we have the door depth, and we have for door depth, we have the same interface as the door frame depth. So let's close it. So we have here the door depth. And because we need for the extrusion here, we need minus values, we have to negate this value first. So let's use a negate. And this negates the value. And let's plug this in. Great. Let's check here our setup. Yes, this looks nice. And then we have to reconnect here our door with the rest here of our wall here. This one, so we can use a connect. Add this to here, and also here our reminder here. Remainder, not reminder, huh? And here we go. And what we have to do before we finish our door, we have to also, because we want to texture it at the end, we have to store the selections to add some textures then to our final asset here. So what we already have here the door. So let's output this again here. So this is already the selection here. We could already store as door. So I think we already have the doors stored in here, right? With the first selection, yes. So we don't need to store it again. So yeah, we already have the door, great. So now we like to have the frame here, so we can invert the selection. So invert the selection, great. And then we like to store this. So we could just, I think I will close this now. So I will to be a bit faster here, let's go here with the search method and then type in store selection. And then we like to store the active selection, and we call it door frame. Here we go. We have here now the door frame and the door. Great. And then let's reconnect this here. Bring this outside. Great. And now the door was definitely the complicated part here. So we can now take all this stuff here, bring this into a group. So Alt G. And let's say here, this is the door modeling. Let's take all the parameters here, bring them into here. Let's make this a little bit cleaner here. So perfect. And now inside this group, we have here if you like to adjust something, we have here now our door. Great. Before we go further? Are there questions?
There was one question. It's not a technical one. It's a more general one from Artificial. How did Dominic start to learn how to do this? It's pretty technical. How long did it take him to get to the point where he knows what each of the nodes do? Now, I did reply that nobody knows what each of the nodes does, but yeah. What advice would you give people that want to get into the more technical stuff?
Yeah, I think it took me maybe half a year to fully understand everything, but not just I didn't work full time half a year into nodes. But what helped me is, of course, a little bit of a background in programming, also in Houdini, WOPS. I think WOPS and VEX was also for me a really good base to understand, because at the end it goes into a similar direction as you say. So it is wrangling data, and I think I started by of course reading the documentation. So there is a lot of stuff is hidden there, and I got also some support from some team members from Maxon. So also big shout out here to Donovan and Ole. They helped me a lot, and I definitely can recommend, if you want to dive in now, best thing, if you're really beginner, I still can say go to the Core 4D YouTube channel. So they have a beginners series, and also for the channel from Donovan is also pretty good. I think it is called C Notes.
Last week, check out last week's stream, and we got links for both of them on that. So anyone that hasn't watched that,
great. He has also more basic tutorials. So my tutorials on my YouTube channel are a bit more advanced. And then, just play around. I think, it is some background to in terms of programming helps. It's not 100% necessary, especially for those modeling stuff. I think those modeling stuff is more like to understand how the normal modeling workflow inside Cinema works. So what I do with chaining those modeling nodes it's actually the same step as you do it by hand inside of the viewport. So you can chain them, but for the other stuff, some programming is helpful, of course, with some knowledge there.
I think that's the important stuff. Now, one thing I want to add is a lot of stuff that can be done in classic Cinema 4D. A lot of users are not privy to that information. They don't know the extent of what Cinema 4D can do. Mograph is extremely powerful. Other software out there in the market, their nodal version predominantly is used to do stuff we can already do in Mograph. So make sure first of all you know how to use Cinema 4D. That's number one. The second thing is be patient. I know there is not a tremendous amount of information out there, but there is enough information to sort of move you forward, and it is a different mindset, right? It's not Cinema 4D is a module-based things. You throw a cube, you throw a deformer, you move things around. You're doing things a lot by hand. When you're wrangling things together, like what you showed with the door, you have to programmatically do the stuff you would do with your hands and mind. So, and this ties into a question by Joseph. What are some use cases of this type of modeling in Cinema 4D? I mean, go ahead.
Yeah, it's perfect for stuff like this. You would like to build some assets, so little tools of when you maybe also work in the game industry to build. If you need from one type of object, like a lot of different types. So Donovan has also a nice tutorial where he explained building a little asset like of a ladder. So a ladder could have different widths and different heights and different those steps. And when you build this little capsules, so you can reuse them wherever you want. And if you need different parts, different sizes and different types of this object, so then it's perfect to build a little asset. And also for technical directors, so inside the studio, if you need and it's maybe a box or so, like a cardboard box in different size and different shapes and everything, and you need it a lot to build maybe an environment or something, then the technical director could build an asset. So, and then everybody can use it and have it in little and different sizes and different colors and whatever. So
let me, I'm going to show a very quick example on the mindset. All right, so I'm just going to hijack your screen. Okay, so here's the question: if we didn't have a cube, we would actually, in order to construct a cube, we would have to get, let's say we had a plane. We had to make a plane, select it, extrude it, and make sure we are creating caps. This way, we would make a cube, right? And it's not difficult. It took me, what, 5 seconds to do? If I do it in real time, it takes me 5 seconds. But clicking on a button and making a cube of a size, and then making another cube and moving it around, makes it extremely convenient to do things that are common, like cubes and spheres and so forth. So the same paradigm applies to whatever you want to do with nodes. Anything that has a very specific structured flow in order to do it, and you have to do it again and again and again, it may benefit you to do it in nodes. The example here is that we have the backdrop, which I have found myself in the past before nodes creating a spline or creating a the way I used to do this was I used to get a plane. I used to do this. It wasn't difficult. So 2 and 1. I used to make it editable. I used to grab this and extrude this, and then I used to do this and do a bevel. Right, that was my method of doing something like this. Or I was using splines. No, now we have a ready-made backdrop with all the stuff, and it will save you time, and it's right there, and it's part of your interface. If you do need things like this, then a way to construct things just like what Dominik showed for the houses, for little vehicles, for anything that can be parametrized, it's worth the time, especially if you're in a studio or something like that. Anyway, I'm giving back the screen to Dominik and see if there's any other questions. Let's see. Yeah, exactly. That's Joseph. If you have to make a bunch of variations of these buildings, this is the perfect example. I think Dominik can show us that thing right over there. There you go.
Yeah, so that's that advanced version of this little capsule we built. So this is just one asset, and out of this asset, I built all those different types of buildings. So maybe I can show this afterwards. So, but I think we don't have too much time, so I think let's rush through the windows and so let's go and build those windows. So now we have here our door set, and so we have to build our windows with the remaining shell out of this remaining shell. So let's have a look at the remaining shell here. So the remaining shell, here we have also the bottom and the top. We don't need the bottom and the top for the windows. So we could use again the facing, select by facing. So type in facing, so select facing. Let's show this, and let's select the top, and we can also say add the opposite. So now we have the bottom and the top selected, and we can now split this. So maybe let's bring this up here, so down, so we can start here a new branch. So let's say split. Oops. Split. Then split the geometry. And now we have here on the geometry, we have the bottom and top, and here in the remainder. Yeah. Okay, we have the rest of our shell here, and onto this shell, we like to have random windows distributed. So let's use a random selection. Random selection. Add this to here. And here we have some settings we could use. So the seed, so we can change the seed here. So let's call this Windows seed. And also the chance, so how many windows is also a nice parameter. Let's use this one. Let's take them to here. Let's call this Windows chance. Great. And now we do a pretty similar thing that we did with the door. So when we have a look here at one of the windows, so let's go to the windows, maybe add a subdivision. We have to indent first, then we extrude, indent, and extrude again. So, and that's what we like to do. So let's go into here. So first thing we like to do is to do an indent. Where is it? Oops. It's
Inset.
inset, sorry, yeah.
It's not your fault. They've been changing the name. It used to be inner extrude, then it became inset. So now it's inset.
Great, thanks. So here, inset. So we use the inset value as a parameter. Also call this Windows inset. Bring this to here. And now we like to split this part. So from this part, we want to build our window frame. So let's use the split here. And from this, we like to model our frame. So first thing we like to do is to subdivide it. Subdivide. Here we go. And the subdivision we also like to have as a parameter. Here we go. And then next thing is like we like to extrude it. Extrude. Here we go. And here the same. Let's make sure we have here use island checked. Great. Then use an inset. And now for the inset, this inset looks nice here. So we don't have to use the island here. So, and also we like to have those parameters here. So this is the, I will don't change the names here. So we are a bit faster here. So, and then the inset here. Great. And then the last extrude. Again, this has to go into the negative. So let's go into our resource editor here. Let's say here the offset. Let's copy this and paste it. And say here Windows depth. Great. Bring this in here and negate this. Negate. Plug it in here. And here we go. This is our window. And of course, we have to store the selections. So store, oops. Store selection. This is our class. So let's say active and then class and then invert the selection. Invert. Oops. And this is our frame here. So let's store it. And let's say Windows frame Windows. Okay. And say also active. Great. Then let's take all those nodes, group it, and let's say, oh, we forgot something. We have to bring the wall around the window back. So we split this here. So let's connect here our windows with the frame, with the rest of the wall here. Is the right part? No, wait. I think, well, it's the right part. Okay.
I think you have caps somewhere or not. No, you don't.
No, it's just because they are the same extrusion here, huh? The window. Yeah. That's the problem. So it just looks like, okay. And this is modeling Windows. And then let's connect this part here and say connect. Connect our door with the window. Bring this back. And now everything is set. I think we will skip the because of the time, I think we will skip the roof. So it's now a house without the roof. So because I like to show you how to, at the end, build a proper asset out of this. So we assume we have now also our roof here. So here are our settings. So and now we think, okay, this is the state. My asset looks fine. So let's build an asset. So when you're inside your node here, you can see there is here this tab called asset. So let's go to this and you can say, let's convert it to an asset. Then of course, let's use a name, my building, and then you have a version. So there you can use your own versioning. So normally it's good as long as it is not a final version. Maybe start with 0.0 because it's our first version here. And then you have to select the database. And as long as you don't want it as long as you just work with your asset and you think it's not finished now, it's always good to place it inside the scene file here first. So it's just embedded in the scene file. You can work here inside the scene file, make new scene file copies, and you can, after when you have a final version, you can export it or place it in your final database. So we will place it inside of the scene file, and then there's the category. So you can say, what is it? So it's inside the nodes, and then you can place it where you like to have it. I have here my own category. Maybe let's place it in here. Okay, great. I say okay. And now the node graph disappears because we have now a final asset. So, and you can find it then inside of your nodes here. Here are my own nodes, and then there's my own building here. Here it is. And if you like to do adjustments, so think, okay, now this is my version 0.1 here. So you can always right click onto the node and then say edit asset as group. And now it opens it again and you can do some adjustments. So when we think of here our parameters here, this is not a nice overview here. So we can adjust, for example, here our parameters. So let me show you what you can do inside the resource editor. Let's make this big. Now we have everything inside our input tab. So we can build our own tabs when you go here to the bottom, you have those two UI types. You have group and separator. So let's place a group here. We can say let's use 3 groups, 3 new groups. And this is maybe for our shell of the building, shell settings here. This is the door settings, and then the window settings. Then we can grab here those two, add those to the shell, and then all our door settings, and those into the door, and then all the rest here to the windows. And now you can see we have here for every part we have sorry, we have here our own tab, and you can also use, if you like to make it here cleaner, you can also use the separator. So you can place them, for example, here, and then you have this line, and when you add a name to the separator, I don't know, something like this, then you have a title here, and so you can build your own parameter here and then make a nice overview of your parameter setup. So let's close it. And now we think, okay, these are the adjustments. Great. So let's build a new version of our asset. So let's go back to asset, and then you can see here, you can save it as a new one, but we can say save a new version. So then the same dialog pops up here, and then it automatically counts up. So this will be our version 0.2. Let's say okay. And let's go back to the content browser. Here's my building, and you can now, when you show the details here with this button, you can go to the versions, and you can see there all versions are saved in here. You can also on the asset itself. So when you go to basic, you can see here, you can choose the asset version of the version you like to work with. So when you do new adjustment, so if you use the asset already in an old scene and you do adjustment to your asset, so the old scene will choose the older version. So that's good. So you can make new versions here. And yeah, I think that's actually it for the asset. Of course, when you like to move it at the end to another database, just right click as I showed at the beginning, and then you can say move it or copy it to another database. So the moment I can say, okay, I also want this asset also in my own database, not just in the scene. So let's click my own database, press OK. And then in the info here, you see the database. It's inside the scene file and also in my own database. So this is how you can build an asset and how you can make new versions of the asset. So I think that's it for this part. Are there questions? Or I can show the last files for the ending here to show you the advanced version of the asset to round this stream up.
Yeah, show the last bit.
Yes. Here we go. So here you can see, maybe let's out of the camera, and now oops, you can see all those buildings are made out of one asset here. So this is the tiny house here, or maybe this little mansion is made out of 4 of those assets. So you can open the mansion here. You can see we have the center part, the tower, then an instant of the tower, and then the back part here. So actually with the asset, I made 4 parts and built this building. And same here, like we have, or here the church is the back part is one of my building asset, and then the tower is also one. So yeah, and of course you have the same settings. So settings for the shell, for the door. At the door I can also add the stairs. So I also a stair setting here, And the Windows settings, I have here also a random distribution or also a distribution by module value. You can see here we have here another distribution, then a random distribution type, yeah, and stuff like this. Then also a base, so we can add a base to our little building. Yeah, this is just then the advanced version of our little building asset, and you can see what you can do with just one asset. You can build all those little buildings. And as you also saw in my presentation, then here I took the asset, placed it inside of a cloner, and to the parameters I added some field drivers to drive the different values, and then I built this city with a Mograph setup. So, and with the asset, yeah.
Yeah, there was a question if we can use it with Mograph and so forth. Yes, these are normal Cinema 4D objects. That is the great thing, the big advantage, I guess, with scene nodes, that because it's a system embedded in Cinema 4D, anything you make is an actual object with actual parameters. And for most cases, they will work with the field driver tags. They will work with all sorts of things. If it doesn't, just report it to tech support. But other than that, they should work just like any other object.
Right, yeah. You can place it inside of a cloner, for example, and set the cloner also here to, where is it, blend, and add a second one here and say maybe the shell, let's make it higher. And you can see that you have also a nice building. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think we are also a little bit over time. Yeah, I would love to show some, but I have an appointment in like for quarter an hour. So yeah, if some final questions, maybe I can answer.
No, there are no questions. Yeah,
Right.
I think everyone was pleased once again with what you showed us. Don't forget, go to the link in the description below. Use the link as it is, and so you can download the files. If you mess around with the link, you're going to get an empty email that doesn't give you the final link to the file. So the majority of people that couldn't get the link was because they messed with the file. Don't mess with the links. Don't mess with the links. Yeah. So you mess with the links, you mess with me. I don't know if that's from a movie or something. I just dreamt about it. Well, Dominik, thank you again. We will see you again next week, if I'm not mistaken, with with a final episode of this series. But I don't think it's the last time we're going to be seeing you around. Wink, wink.
We will see. Depends on Maxon. Yeah, great. Yeah, thank you too. And of course, also if you have questions to ask, or you want to see some additional stuff from my side, as always, there was not enough time to show the additional stuff. Just contact me on Instagram or on YouTube. On YouTube, there's also an email address, so you can write me and ask me questions. Yeah, thank you.
Fantastic. And everyone, don't forget, subscribe and turn on notifications. It helps the algorithm push the video, and we would like to see you subscribed. So let me go press some buttons here, put the end screen on, and everyone, Dominik, friends, bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.